Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Morgan and I'm all about DIY, thrift flips, and home decor on a budget. Right next to my husband's desk, we had an old table that just became our junk table. We put old papers on there. If I was in the middle of a craft and needed to move it off the table, that's where that went. I recently got into sewing projects, so my fabric and my sewing machine were on there, and the junk was just piling up. So I wanted to find a solution for this, something that would at least hide the junk away. So I started searching on Facebook Marketplace and I found this beautiful old armoire or wardrobe. So let's go flip that armoire. Okay, so we found this beautiful armoire on Facebook Marketplace. It is made out of wood, but not the best wood, so I don't think that it would be possible to sand it down and stain it. I don't think it would look that great. Someone had already painted over it. This was already someone's project, but this bluish gray color doesn't really match with my color scheme in my house. So I'm gonna clean it up, take the paint off, and then repaint it. So here's the full view of the armoire, and then if we take a look inside, okay, but for real, inside there are two bottom drawers, and then this top space does actually have a shelf that came with it, and it's also missing the backing. However, that doesn't really bother me, especially because I'm planning on putting our printer in here, so the cord can just run out the back. So first off, I'm just wiping the whole thing down with a damp towel. To remove the paint, I'm applying Citristrip with an old brush. You definitely want to wear gloves and eyewear when using this stuff. We were working in weather that was in the high 90s, and it looked like the Citristrip was drying as soon as I put it on the furniture piece. So I found that what helped with this was to work in small sections and to cover each section with plastic wrap immediately. So pretty much as soon as I was done covering the whole thing, the side where I started looked like it was ready to be scraped off. So it's ready to be scraped off when it looks like this. It's turned white, the paint's all crackled, and you can see some of the brown poking through from underneath. Also, look how cute my husband is writing cute little love notes. To take the paint off, I used a plastic scraper. You can use a metal scraper, but it does have a greater chance of denting your wood. I did have a large paper bag on the ground that I put all of that gunk in, but even so, it's a pretty messy process. For the most part, it was super easy to scrape off. There were just a few spots that didn't want to come off where I didn't have enough Citristrip. To get rid of those harder spots, you can apply another layer of Citristrip, or you can just sand it off once it's dry. You can see how the paint is even being pulled off by the plastic wrap. The paint was coming off so easily, I hardly had to apply any pressure on my scraper. After scraping all that off, the surface is still a bit sticky, so it helps to use mineral spirits and some steel wool to get any residue. Okay, so this is where we've gotten so far. This was after one layer of Citristrip and then some mineral spirits and a little bit of scrubbing. I didn't do too much. Brooks really needs a nap. We've been here for 3 hours. Everyone's tired and hungry. Ideally, I would like to go through with the mineral spirits and something coarse to brush it with to really get off a lot of the stuff, but everyone's tired and hungry. So we're headed home, and I think I'm just gonna try and sand the rest of it. So I guess when we come back and start sanding, then we will find out if it's stainable or if we're gonna paint it. Either way, I think it's gonna look so beautiful. So it's now a few days later, and I am applying Citristrip to the drawers and the doors. Sometimes it can get rough. I ran out of Citristrip before I got to the last side, so I decided to sand the paint off of that side. Comparing the two methods of Citristrip versus sanding, I'd say they take about the same amount of time. Sanding is a lot more labor intensive, but also costs less than buying Citristrip. Though, if you have a lot of detail in your furniture piece, I would definitely recommend using Citristrip over sanding every time. Promise I won't turn my back, even if it takes some time.
Never wanna see you cry. Girl, you
The veneer that was used was actually a beautiful color and I was so excited about it, but then the edging was made of different wood, so the colors didn't match, which was so sad. In all honesty, I did make a lot more work for myself. I wanted to see what the wood looked like under the paint, so I stripped it. But I could have just lightly sanded the whole thing and then painted over the original paint. I did a little bit of hand sanding, and then I remembered that I had this multi-purpose tool that I used to reach the spots my Orbit sander couldn't reach.
when you're running low on love, I'll be the shoulder that you're leaning on. And when it feels different, then things are.
When it was all sanded, I blew off a lot of the dust and then gave it a really good wipe down with a damp towel. I'm adding Floaterol to my paint according to the directions on the bottle. This is not a necessary step, but it does help to smooth brush strokes and it aids in hot temperatures. The paint I'm using is from Valspar. It's called Softer Tan, and as the name suggests, it is a soft tan color. It has a little bit of a warm yellowy undertone, and I think it's super pretty. You know, I don't know why I decided to paint this outside in weather that was nearing the hundreds. I should have just taken it home and painted it in my house. Lesson learned from next time. The paint was literally drying on impact of the furniture, so not my best move. Whoever painted over this the first time painted over all the hinges and screws, so I am attempting to remove that paint. To do this, I placed the hardware in boiling water that contained 1/4 cup of baking soda for every 4 cups of water. I then let that sit in the boiling water for about 15 minutes. Guys, this technique works amazingly. Once I took the hardware out of the water, it was super easy to peel the paint off. Once I got all the big pieces off, I found it was a bit faster and easier to use an old scrub brush to get the paint off of any of the hard to reach places. All of the paint did come off, though the metal underneath was oxidized and wasn't that pretty to look at. Tanner was so nice and he put all of the hardware back on for me. I didn't like the knobs that came with this, so I picked up these beautiful golden knobs from Lowe's. And actually, the screws for these knobs were too short for my doors, so I went to this magical place called Ace Hardware. I recently found out Ace Hardware sells hardware by individual pieces, so I brought my knobs in and I was able to try out different screws to make sure it was the right fit for my knobs, and then I only had to buy the amount that I needed. I then taped off the hinges and used Rub and Buff in the color Antique Gold to give new life to these sad hinges. A little goes a long way with Rub and Buff, so you don't need to use very much at all. And that brings us to our final product.
These nights feel so long, babe. My rights turned around, babe. You walked in and you caught my eye. My flight's in the morning. I don't feel important unless you can come change my mind. What am I left to do? Everything I say gets.
Okay guys, I know I say this a lot, but I am so in love with how this turned out. It is the perfect solution for our storage problems. It looks so nice, it makes everything look way more organized. When I was painting it outside, I wasn't sure if I liked the color, but now that it's inside my house, I love the color of this. I think it goes so well with the color palette that's already in my house. Let me know in the comments what you guys use to organize your house, because I could use all the tips and tricks. If you enjoyed watching this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you want to keep DIYing with me, and I'll link some of my other thrift flip videos right here for you. See you guys.